To introduce myself, hello everyone. My name is Ajay Datta. I am a third year EC undergrad at NIT Silchar, and I'm the web moderator of GDSC NIT Silchar. And we have with us Vijay and Rup Snigdha. Vijay is a CSC undergrad at NIT Silchar, of course, and he is the management head of GDSC. And Rup Snigdha was an ex-member of GDSC during our second year tenure, and he's now doing freelance using Svelte. So we thought, why not bring him with us and do a like fun study session. So we'll be starting now. So switch to Svelte. So that brings the question, what is Svelte? So to answer this, we'll just go over and switch to the docs, and let's see a thing like the thing we do when we want to know something is we go over to Wikipedia. So we are going to Wikipedia and we are going to search for Svelte. So let's see what Wikipedia has for us. So Svelte is a free and open source front-end component framework and language created by Rich Harris and maintained by Svelte core team members. So the thing that differentiates Svelte from other JavaScript libraries is that like it's not a monolithic JavaScript library imported by applications. It instead compiles HTML templates to specialized code that manipulates the DOM directly. So I hope everyone is familiar with this DOM. Is there anyone who doesn't know what is the document object model that I'm talking about? Feel free to raise a hand. Okay. Okay, so ठीक है. So DOM is basically the model which is made by the browser uh, for the like HTML that we write. It's like a tree if you can like visualize this. This is like a tree in a HTML document. You can learn more about it later, I guess, but it's out of scope for this discussion at this moment. So I would suggest to like read up on this later. So what's different for Svelte is like instead of uh, like what React and other frameworks do is like they directly don't manipulate the DOM in the browser. They instead create something which is called a virtual DOM. So what is the virtual DOM? DOM is just a copy of the actual DOM which is in the browser, and like what when we type something in the like code, it first checks it changes the virtual DOM, and then it checks if it is different from the actual DOM. So this diffing algorithm takes like lots of coding, and like that increases the bundle size, JavaScript bundle size that we have to send to the client. So what happens with Svelte is like it already compiles that code into JS and CSS files, which is very compact in comparison to what like instead of like sending the whole library, it sends just a JavaScript file and the CSS files. So this differentiates Svelte from other component frameworks. In fact, the size difference is so much that like Svelte sends around a bundle of 3 KB, while 900 a typical like React project has like 900 KB 1 MB bundle size, which is like a huge difference. And this is clearly seen when we like open any website made in Svelte and any another framework. So to like summarize everything, Svelte is a front-end framework and language which is used to build web applications. So it compiles the HTML template into giant JavaScript functions, which allows us to manipulate the DOM, and we don't need the virtual DOM in any way. So this reduces the size of the JavaScript bundle, and so this gives better client performance and like snappy interfaces. So we can say that Svelte is attractively thin, graceful, and stylish, which is the meaning of svelte in Swedish. Because like the person who made svelte is Finnish in origin, and yeah, so going to into the history of svelte, svelte was actually created by Rich Harris when he was working at the New York Times. So they needed it for like the interactive story articles that they published. So he ended up making a new framework to cater to that need. So without further ado, let's like write some code and like see what it's actually like. So to do that, you can either go to like swell.dev/REPL. I would just copy the link and send it here. Or what you can do is stack blitz. Go to stackblitz.com, mm, and then go to full stack and go for SvelteKit. I will like you will know what is SvelteKit later, but first let's get the basic template ready. By that time, is everyone following along? Like, is there any issue? Please feel free to like tell anything, like either using your mic or like typing in the chat. And like for comparison, let's start so this is what a typical React project, sorry, Svelte project looks like. It has a main src file which has two main folders, live and roots. Roots is where all the pages are present, and as you can see, they are written with like plus page dot svelte. And this layout and stuff you'll learn later. For now, we'll just play with this page dot svelte thing and see what it does. And then this live has like everything that's not a page. Like you can write components, you can keep your images and other assets here, and even APIs and like helper functions that you will write in JavaScript. You can keep that in that live folder. Uh, okay, is there like any issue? Everyone is following along, right? Is it too fast or slow or anything? Uh, like SvelteKit is a like I will the main difference I like है ही पीपीटी में बोल देता हूँ SvelteKit में like difference ये है कि like you get more features like routing and server side rendering and everything which is not present in only Svelte. Like SvelteKit is a like bigger framework than Svelte, which like incorporates Svelte. So डिफरेंस उतना ही है. आई वुड से SvelteKit में ही कर लो क्योंकि बाद में उसी में शिफ्ट करना है. वहाँ पे ज्यादा like features and it's easier to like most things are inbuilt there. I would say. हाँ, full stack framework है वो. So like this counter is like what's in the basic template. So before going into all that, we'll just like we'll just see what it looks like. Like let's uh, delete everything. I'm using this REPL so that like it's not confusing to anyone. So what it basically looks like is like here you can write your HTML template like hi, and then uh, you can write your CSS just below it, like let's say I'm taking this and you can directly change your CSS right here, like hi, color. I'm changing the color to red and it's getting changed. And for JavaScript, what we can do is directly write a script. And let's say const name equals to world. So what I can do is like directly reference this name variable that I wrote there, like hello hi world. Hello world लिखना था. हाँ, ठीक है. Hello world, okay. Or like hello guys. You can directly write it in one file. So this is an advantage. This is something like Vue does as well, but like yeah. But React and Angular, they don't do this. Okay, so here, huh?
I had a query actually regarding
Yeah.
regarding security. And just now, as you told that from the JavaScript we are able to write thing in the main file. And basically, can't we do this in VS Code or writing from JS to the main code?
Sorry, you are not audible. Like
Hello, भैया.
थोड़ा सा जोर से बोलो.
Hello, भैया. Is it audible?
हाँ हाँ हाँ.
Yes, yeah. Means mainly my query was regarding how is Svelte different from the other frameworks that we used to write means make with.
We just went through the like. I will just wait a second. So this is the part that like second point it says like Svelte compiles HTML templates into tiny JavaScript functions at build time rather than runtime. So what happens is like in other frameworks, the JavaScript is sent, the whole library is sent to the browser, and the browser, that is the client, your computer, will then decode that JavaScript into functions in your laptop so that you can see the website. But Svelte compiles the stuff before sending it to your computer. So your computer doesn't have to take the headache of like taking the files and then again rendering it. I'm sorry, not rendering, like compiling it. It directly comes compiled, so it can directly show it. He doesn't have the browser doesn't have to like do anything to the code again. Am I clear now?
Yes, yes, yes.
So That is the basic difference. And like virtual DOM and stuff, you will learn later, but like that is the difference between Svelte and other things. Uh, so this is how a basic Svelte like component looks like. You can to make this reactive, like did you see that counter? Do you remember this counter? So to do this in React, you have to do something called use a hook called useState, and then you have to change that useState function so that like it's इधर नहीं दिखा रहा so let's see a basic React counter. So it needs to do something called it needs a hook called useState, which changes the where is there anything? Okay, which changes the variable to like change the counter. But here in Svelte, what we can do is like let count equals to 0. This is showing the count, and then now we'll have to make a button. Button. Oops. We'll instead now make a button, which will say, let's say, click. Now we'll have to make a let's say increment. We are making a function which will increase the count of the like variable. Okay, so what it will do is just simply count plus equal to 1. Now it won't do anything because we haven't added the on click function yet. So we'll do something called on click, and it will do increment. Mhm. So this is how like you can do make a basic counter in Svelte, and while in React it's doing the same thing, but for that you have to write this much code to handle everything. Half of it is like CSS, but yeah, you have to make a use state. Then for that, handle add one, which is what our increment function is doing here. Like count plus one, he's changing the use state count using this function called set count. So instead of doing all that, Svelte solves that problem directly, like making every it's like this term is called making every variable reactive. Like every variable can be changed like this only. So there is something now called React guys will notice like there is something called uh, declarations. I hope you have heard about that. So when does compo like when a state changes in React, it re-renders the UI to show that change. You can do the same thing here by we can that is done in React by using use effect. But instead of use effect, here we have something that is called this dollar symbol, and let's say double equals to count multiplied by 2. And then so what it does is like doubled is a variable that is dependent on count, and every time that count changes, doubled gets changed as well. So this triggers a re-render that whenever the dependent state is changed, the the original value will change as well. So you can see that every time that we are clicking the button which changes count, this changes the doubled variable as well, which gets rendered in our screen. So you can in REPL there is a feature where you can see this JS output which is actually sent to the browser. So this is just 111 lines of code, and if like I remove all this and just give this changes to 50 lines of code only. Like I just have a h1 tag that says test, and then the CSS which changes the color to red, and you can see that it sends only 50 lines of JavaScript to the browser. And this is something that sets apart Svelte from other frameworks, and this makes it snappy and very fast. CSS output like is changing the H1 color to red. AST is the tree that I talked about. This is not something that if you want to, you can explore this. Like everything gets shown here. Like every node of that tree is can be like inspected here. So this is not something I would recommend to newbies. Like if you are interested, you can like explore that as well. Coming back, let's see how props are like handled here. So you can let's make a component tools, or let's call it component. You can declare your props using the export keyword. Export let let's say I, and now if I okay, let me just uncomment all this. Yeah, just a problem. Yeah. Okay. What we can do is now, well, import the, excuse me for a moment. I don't know why, but the keyboard seems to not work, is not working. Let me just rejoin for a second, okay?
So, do you do like any of you have any doubts? We can talk about that while Adhiraj is getting back.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, sorry for that, like, disturbance. I hope it's visible now. Yes, we. So yeah, all the same. Okay, so let's call it nested dot swell. Let's import this here. So, okay, this is not working for some reason.
Dot forward slash from dot forward slash nested.
Okay. Let's say we are just showing what is I even. And here we'll use the equals to say one. So like here the one is appearing now. So let's say I'm doing I into two. It's as simple as that. You can put your props just like this. You can pass your props just by declaring them as export, or you can give default values like I equals to 4. So if I don't give anything, so I'm not giving anything, just write right, I equals to 4. So 4 into 2, 8 is getting output here. So props are really simple, just like that. And then there is like what happens in React when we use like let's say we are using a input form, okay? So for an input form, let me say like I'm taking the value of your like name. I'm inputting your name in an input form, okay? So I'm making an input now. Input. So what we do is like value. We pass the value like this, and then like let's say we are now gonna output it like hello name. Now this, what we can do is like we can uh, use a keyword called name. Why is this not getting the oh, name has already been declared. So we change like something name to okay. So when I type something like hello Raj, it gets directly changed using this keyword called bind. So bind is really helpful. What you like you would have to do in React is like you have to take the value, use a label for that to like change it, and then like it's a very messy process. Here you can just use this keyword called bind. So like that uh, takes the value and listens for changes in the value itself, and then like renders it or like you can use it somewhere else. So you don't have to do that event.target.value that plate code that everyone has to write. So this is even better for like numeric inputs. So what happens in JavaScript normally is like everything you write in the DOM is treated as strings only. So every time you use a numeric input, so let's say input you have to give your type, right? So every time that you write number, when you write number in Svelte, so it already knows that you are they are not dealing with string, so it's an integer. So main equals to 0. I'm trying to make like set a value in a range using a slider. So let's say in that, oh, I have to declare equals to say 1. Value is defined now, please. Okay. Value is the so here we can change here. What happens in JavaScript is that you have to do again a e.target.value and then set it to integer so that you can manipulate this simple like inputs input taker for like numbers. But here in Svelte, you can use bind to like or get that value, and then he automatically knows that he's working with a integer, so you don't need to write that boilerplate plate code anymore. So yeah, what we are going to do now is let's see. There's something called um, just a second. Oh yes, like we already learned this on-click function, right? To like give the button a function. You can also do that for forms as well. The internet is lagging. Just a second. So let me just make a form. It would take something. Input type equals to the set text. Internet have something. We'll have a submit button. So along with this, and let me just close the okay. So let's say we'll have to make a handler function as well. So function and submit. Let's say I'm going to use alert to say submitted. So what I can do is like on submit. So submit. We'll have to call no submit. Submitted. So what happens is like you can see that the whole page got refreshed after I submitted the form. So what happens in plain JavaScript is that you have to take that target value, that is e dot target value again, and then like you have to do something called prevent default so that like it doesn't happen like this. It doesn't get refreshed. But here in here in Svelte, you can do something called prevent default right here in the this thing. Like, it's happening. Okay, I don't know why this keeps on happening. Okay. Resource friendly screen sharing is not very uh, Linux friendly, but okay. Let's continue. Yeah, so where was I? You can do something called prevent default right here, which will like prevent the uh, page from getting refreshed when you do a submit in the like interface. Like verify, right? Hello. Okay, so it doesn't get refreshed again. So instead of doing all that boilerplate code, you can just give a prevent default, which is like really easier. Like it gives a very streamlined developer experience. Like this comes really handy during like big projects. Binding, we did bindings and then yeah, I think that's all from me today. Uh, if something comes up, I'll again like pop up somewhere. Like anyone has any questions or like queries regarding what we did now and anything else? No. I think that's. Am I audible? Actually, I'm not sure. Okay. So if no one has any doubts, then I think Rupsnita can take over now. Rups.
Yeah, thank you, Adhiraj. So, were you guys following along like when Adhiraj was talking to you about advantages of Svelte and everything? Let's keep this interactive, okay? So, unmute yourself and say something, right? Yeah. So the reason the reason I personally like Svelte is because it provides a better developer experience, right? So if you look at any of the JavaScript surveys of of JavaScript UI frameworks, then you'll see that Svelte has been ranking in like the top since the release of Svelte 3, which was around 2019, I think, because like it really provides a very good developer experience when you compare it with React. Because when it comes to basic React, even routing is difficult, right? You have to use React router. You can use Next or something for that, but with vanilla React, even routing is a task, right? So with Svelte, everything gets like way easier. And yeah, as Adhiraj said, you can like there are a lot of cool features. So I'll teach you about two of the important things you need to know in Svelte. I'll just share my screen now. Mm, Probably this one, yeah. So so the screen is visible. So I'll teach you about two things. One is conditional rendering. So I have a bunch of code written. We'll go over it. We'll write all of this as well, and then we'll see what's happening here. Then I'll teach you about stores. But before all of that, I want you to know one thing. So, if you want to switch to Svelte, the Svelte docs are really good. Like they are very well written. They are very beginner friendly as well. And it's very simple. If you want to switch to Svelte, all you have to do is go to this, read this, go to this, read this, and go through all of this. You'll probably not use most of these functions anyway. Like there's a 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time, you'll only use 20% of this stuff, right? So yeah. Uh, so that's that. So yeah, I just want to give great shout out to the docs because they are really nice. I'll like the link is felt.dev/docs/ or like box, right? So the first thing is conditional rendering, right? So I'll just comment out a lot of this. The styling can stay. Oh, and we can comment out this as well. So I'm getting a bunch of unused CSS selectors because I have some CSS selectors written just so that when we render our code, it looks better over here. So we'll go through uh, like uh, some of the really cool features in Svelte, which is first we'll talk about conditional rendering. So if you go over the docs, there is conditional rendering here somewhere. Mm, yeah, it's here somewhere. You'll find it. So anyway, so this is a very basic scenario, and you will deal with this when you are developing anything. So you will have JSON array with some data, and then you have to somehow do something with that data over here, right? So for example, what if I told you your task was to output a table in which there was the name of the employee, the salary of the employee, maybe their employee number, as well as let's say for example, like I think I have this. Yeah, so if the salary is less than 50,000, then he's an intern. If it is more than 4 lakhs, then he's a SD3. And if it is somewhere in between, he's an SD2. So, yeah, that's that. So, how would you handle this? So as Adhiraj said, we can do stuff like this, right? So, employees, zero, um, game. So this is showing employee one. Why? Because employees is an array, right? So yeah, so employees is an array, and if I access the name property of this first object, then I get employee one. Is this clear to all of you? Like how this? I want a yes or no. Like,
Yes,
do you
Bhaiya.
have doubts? Like, you have a basic idea of how JSON works, right? If you don't, then I can go touch over it if you want me to. So, is it fine? All right. So yeah. Okay. So this is what you can do. So for example, right? Let's understand our problem. Like, give you a spoiler, kind of. So what we want is basically this. Okay. So you want an ID over here, their names over here, the salary, and then see like position, like what position are they in. If you look over here, the position is not like is not explicitly stated, right? So you have to do some JavaScript to figure that out. So how you would build this table is like, let's say we are doing this h2. So so how you would do this is have a table. Then you would have like all of these table headings, right? So you would have these, right? Now what you would do is you would have a table row where you would have table data. Uh, so first of all, we don't know how to put IDs in here, right? Because we don't have explicit IDs. So let's just put one over here. Then we'll have like employees zero dot name. So I'm getting employee one, and I can just copy this, right? Just copy this and um, this salary. And then again, I don't know like what this position is, right? Because it's not in the JSON. So what I would have to do is like write a bunch of JavaScript, run a check. If it is less than 50,000, then he's an intern. If it is more than 4 lakhs, then he's an SD3, as he's like an SD2. But the issue with this is just one row of the table for one of the employees, right? Imagine a company which has over like 100 people. Then you would have to write this for each and every one of those, and that's where Svelte comes in. So there is this fantastic tool in Svelte, which is the each block that I have written over here. So I'll just quickly write this for you as well. So what each does is it takes in an argument. So in this case, it's an array. It loops over uh, it loops over each item of the array, and then it executes this block of code. This it renders this markup. Okay, so this you can uh, imagine this to be like uh, for each in JavaScript, or if you don't know what for each is, kind of like a for loop in C++, right? So what this does is it goes through all of this, renders something for each of this, and then uh, it exits. Is that clear? Like, do you have a basic idea? I'll code this, but uh, are you getting what I'm trying to explain over here? So, okay. If you have any doubts, just stop me at any moment. Ask why something is happening the way it is happening, and I'll be glad to answer that. So, so let's go over the syntax of each, for example, right? So, uh, I have a new keyboard and the controls are weird. So, yeah. What's happening right now is oh yeah, never mind. So what's happening right now is this is taking in an array, right? Employees is an array. Is that clear? Because it's an array, right? You can see it's an array of objects, right? It's assigning each of that array, each item of that array as an employee, and then it is rendering whatever is inside of this each statement or this each block. So since there are 3 employees, I'm getting 3 tests over here, right? So if I had to increase, if I wanted to increase this, let's like copy paste this person. This over here. You get 4 tests because there are 4 employees, and this each block is rendering 4 times. Is that clear? How this each block is functioning? Yes or no? Hello, am I audible?
Please drop a yes or no. Like it gets very frustrating if you don't get any feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Aryan, I
thanks.
would want you to like unmute yourself because it's hard for me to switch tabs. Also, the thing is, I like if you don't get it, that's fine. Like I can explain it, more, but it's easier to know if you're getting it or not, right? So then I know when I can move on to the next topic, right? So anyway, so this is rendering this 4 times test. So now let's see what the problem was. So we had to make this thing right over here. So there are so like if you know basic HTML, each of this is a row, right? So for each employee, we are rendering a row, a TR or a table row, right? So what we can do is inside of each block, we can render a table row. Inside of each table row, we can render data. So we still don't know how to work with indices. Uh, yeah, never mind. We still don't know how to work with indices. So that's that. Hmm. But for the name, now what we can do is we can do we can do employee no, dot name. Sorry, name. And what this did is, since each block was iterating through each item of this employees array. So in its first instance, it assigned this object as employee. So if I do employee.name in that instance, I would get this table. Wait, sorry. So I would get this table, this output, right? So if I did, so if I, doing this is the same as employees zero dot name because this is basically assigning employee zero as employee, right? So similarly, if I did something like this, sorry, if I did something like, oh yeah, should I increase the font size? Yeah, I will. So if I do this dot salary, then you would get the salary outputs as well, right? So now we have 2 problems. One is we have to assign IDs, and next we have to assign position. So what you can do in and each block is you can pass an index. So once you pass an index, it keeps track of like the index of this employee. So what I can do is I can do index. This is the index of this employee, right? So if we go back over here, this is in the 0th index, right? This is in the first index, the second index, and the third index. So this is the entire array over here. So if I make any changes, so let's say employee 4, this becomes employee 4, and then for example, if you want to change the salary to let's say something like this, that changes over here. So now the position, right? So so where was the table I was working with? Yeah, this. So now the position. The thing with position is uh we don't know, right? There is a I just specified a criteria. So if the salary is less than 50,000, he's an intern. If it is more than 4 lakhs, he's a SD3. Otherwise, he's an SD2. So what we can do right now is we can use an if statement inside of our HTML. And that's why Svelte is so fantastic, because you're doing a loop over here. Then you can do if statements inside your HTML as well. And it's really beautiful. It's really convenient. So this is the syntax of the entire if statement. So what I can do is, so I wanted to see if I can do this. Never mind. So yeah. So what we can do is if, and then we write the condition, right? So employee dot salary less than 50,000. We put out a uh, we put out a TD and say intern, and then we end. Oh, sorry. And then we end the if block. So you see, we get intern over here because the salary of this employee is less than 50,000, right? So, but let's say uh, else I think I made a syntax error. Oh yeah, yeah. This is else TD SDA two. Right. So the salary range was like this. So if it is less than 50,000, he's an intern. If it is more than 4 lakhs, he's a SD3. Otherwise, he's an SD2. So we can now do another, like, else if, and then we write another criteria over here, greater than 4 lakhs. We return a TD, call this SD3. Yeah. So you see, so we got our output over here, right? Are we clear on how we reach this conclusion? So I'll go over each these blocks again. So what's happening here is what each does is each loops through each element of an array, and then runs renders all the markdown inside the each block, right? So all the markup inside the each block. So if for every element in that array, it is returning this entire block. Now for in case of if, what we can do is we can pass in conditions over here and check those conditions. If that condition is true, it returns this. Else if that's false, it returns this, and then you can have else if over here. So it's like C++ or Python or JavaScript, if basic if else statements, which you can write inside of your HTML, because you see this is our HTML, right? We're writing all of this inside our HTML, and it's easier basically, because now you don't have to write another script.js and then do all of that stuff over there, and then import and export and all of that. It's really convenient. So anyway, this was the basic if like if and each blocks. Next, we have what was it? Yeah. So the next section is await blocks. So I just want to have like, how many of you have worked with APIs? I know you have some basic idea about promises and everything. Please raise your hands. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, Adhiraj as well. So 5, 6. Yeah, so okay, some of you people have worked with APIs, you know what promises are. So I won't go over what promises are, because that would take a lot of time to explain. So we'll just do this, and I will do this. Right. Now the await block. So first of all, I'm using stoiccodes.com for like API. So we do this. What this button does is this generates a random code. So when the code is generating, we get waiting. waiting, and when the promise is resolved, we get this. So this is a basic async function. We are using fetch API. We are fetching this. We are returning. Then we are So the structure of the like the response we get that has text as well as the name of the author. So we are not dealing with the author name right now. So I'm just returning the quote uh, which I get from data.text. So yeah, if so okay, so let's start exploring the await block. So first of all, we have a button. So uh, so this is how you write on-click functions in JavaScript. So button on click, you want when you click on the button. So when the button is clicked, you want to run the handle click function, which is over here, right? So handle click, and then you generate and then you obviously write this, right? So yeah, so what this hand so let's look at it like uh, as it is happening. So when I click on this, the handle click function is called. In the handle click function, so from first of all so the value of promise is updated uh, by using the get random quote function. And obviously we set an initial value of promise from random quote as well. So the get so when you click on handle click, when you click on the button, it runs handle click. When it runs handle click, it updates the value of the promise, which is basically a variable, by the way. I just named it promise so that you know it's a promise, right? So and that runs get random quote, that runs this basic async block, right? And returns quote, right? So this is the return of the get random quote, which is basically quote, which is you're getting, right? Now the problem with can anyone tell me like what's the problem when you work with promises in JavaScript? Uh, like why do you need async in the first place? Why if I name this function, why if I remove async from this won't work? Yeah, yeah, good. So we don't know when we don't know when the fetch will be resolved. So there is a so you have to wait for a while as the fetch is being resolved. Uh, so you do that using async await. So yeah. So what you can do with await blocks in Svelte is you can again directly just render your data inside your HTML. And if you have worked with APIs, you will love this because you don't have to write anything. You don't have to write any code. You just have to put this over your HTML and then you're done, right? So what this does is await. So we have the await block. Sorry, we have the await block over here. So in the await block, it is awaiting for this promise to be resolved, right? While it is awaiting, it renders a paragraph which says waiting. So see, when it shows waiting, that means the promise is being resolved, right? And as the promise is resolved, then we return code and then we render that as p. And then you can even have a catch and then render the error message. So if I do something like, let's say I change this, you get the fail to fetch error, right? So that's the error message that's been generated. So yeah, so you can render that as well. Like I can personally tell you, like if you explore Svelte, you'll love this feature because you don't have to like dealing with promises is a lot more convenient. Then there's another logic block, which is the key block. So which you probably will never use. I have never used this, and I use Svelte a lot. But yeah, if it is there, I can teach you. So what a key block does is see. So we have a variable called name, right? So whenever the value of name is updated, all of the stuff inside this key block is destroyed and recreated. Okay, so uh, yeah, so that would not make much sense. Like if I do this and so yeah, so I'm returning this. Okay, so this is like So what I'm doing is in this, so let's look at this section. So I'm binding the value of this input to name. So I have a name variable over here. I'm binding that to this input. So whenever I put something over here, so if I do Adhiraj, the value of this value is being stored in name, and that name is being reflected over here, which Adhiraj taught you like a while back, right? So that's that. So when what key does is it whenever, let's say, whenever changes, this div is being destroyed and recreated. Why would that matter? For example, if you have a transition over there, it would matter because now if I enter any data, that transition works again, right? So that makes working with transitions a lot easier. Also, Svelte has a lot of, by the way, yeah, that reminds me, Svelte has a lot of built-in transitions, so you can just check out their docs. So you don't even need something like GSEP or something to do some basic animations. So yeah, that was conditional rendering in Svelte. That's all you have in conditional rendering. Uh, and logic blocks. Yeah. The topic is called logic blocks. Sorry, not conditional rendering, whatever. So yeah, logic blocks. So that's all there is in logic blocks. We talked about await, we talked about each, we talked about if, and then we talked about key. So do we have any doubts in logic blocks or any doubts regarding Svelte or why we should use Svelte or like anything if you have some questions, because I'll be happy to answer them. Really. If you don't have any doubts, yeah, I just I want to ask you all to please explore Svelte on your own. Trust me, I did not do that, but once I did that, I regretted not switching to Svelte before, because now I don't do anything in React because I don't like React as much. So yeah, just switch to Svelte, which is basically the name of this thing. Switch to Svelte. So yeah, so that was conditional rendering in Svelte. Now we have Svelte stores. Uh, did I change something over here? No. Anyway, so we have Svelte stores, right? So we'll go over this example, and so before we talk about stores, I want to ask you guys, what's like the basic advantage of React, or answer in the term answer along the lines of where does the name React come from? Can any one of you do that? Like, why would you use React over vanilla JavaScript, for example? Yeah, you can use, okay, you can use component multiple times, but you can do that, it would be hard, but you can do that using JavaScript as well. Like, where does the name React come from? Yeah, so it comes from like when you make changes in the UI, that change is reflected throughout your code, right? So yeah. So so do do any of you have any idea what state management is? Because Svelte stores is like a huge topic, and I don't want to rush that. But yeah, so do you know what state management is? Use state, something along those lines. Do you know what those are, and why do you use that? Use effect, React hooks. Okay, that's fine. I'll just touch over Svelte stores. I will not go into depth because this is a huge topic on its own. Where is this? This is a great doc. If you want to read this, there is also uh, Joy of Code Svelte stores. This is a great blog. I think it is this one. Yeah, yeah. This is a great blog. I'll link this in case one of you, employee 2 and employee 4 have the same name. Mm, yeah, I think that was because yeah, I
Yeah,
put
it changed. It changed.
yeah. So yeah, this is a great blog to learn Svelte stores. I'll just go over what Svelte stores are. So Svelte stores are a way to manage global state variables. Okay, so for example, let's say, so we have, where is the variable? Yeah, so we have user profile value, right? Uh, so the user profile value may be true or false. If it is true, we are logged in as admin, and if it is false, we are logged out, right? So that's state. Now the question is, for example, let's do this. Export. I'll just do a different thing. Export let count is equal to 0. I'll rename this to test count.js. Now I'll do import test. What did I export over here? Import count. Let's initialize this to 45. Now we are doing something. Export count from auth slash discount.js. So yeah, so we are importing count from test count, and so if I want to render this somewhere over here, for example, I can do. Uh, don't use H2s before H1s, by the way, but I can do something like. Uh, so yeah, I can get count from here, right? So I'm exporting count from test count.js, and then I'm importing count over here. The issue is I cannot update count over here. So I cannot do count is equal to 0 because I get this error, illegal reassignment of import count in app.svel. So that's an issue, right? Because I may want to modify the value of count somewhere else. So if I initiate the value, so if let's say if I'm declaring count over here and I'm exporting count, I should be able to export it, like change it in different parts of my UI, right? So for example, if I have, so for example, if I have, let's take an example of a login button, for example, which is over here. So I can have a login button over in different places on my website, and I should be able to log in and log out using all of those buttons. And so yeah, so this is a big problem, which is why we need state variables, right? So we could have made a counter for this, but yeah, we'll just go with this example. We'll remove this. So we'll go over what is happening in each of this. So first of all, we are importing user profile from stores.js. So let's go over stores.js. This is importing a writable from Svelte store. What is a writable? Go over to the docs. There are like three types of Svelte stores: writables, readables, and derived. So this is a writable store. Go through all of this. It is a very fantastic documentation. Don't jump to Svelte stores first. Go through all of this and then read Svelte stores. You'll understand what a writable is. What this basically does is it imports a bunch of code. Can I access? I don't think so. So it imports a bunch of code that returns, that creates this user profile variable with all of this data. So what basically we're trying to achieve is, and so whenever the value of a variable changes, all the components that are associated with that value must also reflect that change. So the writable in Svelte stores basically handles all of that for you. Okay. So that's what we are doing. We are using export const user profile writable is logged in false and role null. So what this basically does is, even if you decide you don't want to know how writables work, you just need to know this. This is good enough. You are exporting the is logged in. You're exporting user profile with two properties: is logged in, which is false, and role, which is null, and which is a writable. And then you import login from login.svelte, which is a Svelte component. Here you are also importing user profile. Hold on. This is the dashboard probably. Yeah. So in login, you are importing user profile. then you have two functions, right? And this is how you say a function is reactive in Svelte. Uh, like if I have to be more specific, what this does is this subscribes and unsubscribes uh, a subscriber from the store, but I'm sure like is this clear? Like when I'm talking about Svelte stores, is this making a lot of sense? Or like about global states? You have doubts, right? So yeah, whenever I'm talking about Svelte stores, just know that this is a thing. If you want to switch to Svelte, which I recommend, look into that thing over here. And then if you have any doubts, you can contact me. Anyway, so we have two functions which basically handles the login and logout. So then we have if blocks. If we are not, so if user profile is logged in is false. So if we are not logged in, we want to run the login function. So there we want to set the is logged in property as true and the role as admin. And then when we want to log out, so if yeah, so when we click on this, we logged in. So now the user profile logged in is true. So we want to run logout, which sets the logged in to false and like sets the role to a empty string, right? So that's how the this login is working. So this is the login button. So what this is doing is you are putting let so you are declaring a variable called let user profile value. Then you are subscribing to the user profile that you exported from here. And then you are putting the user profile value as you're setting the user profile value as value, right? So now, um, so this variable is the variable that you will be using throughout your code. So now you have user profile value dot is logged in, right? So again, is logged in may either be true or false. If it is true, we get you are logged in. Since we are logged in, if you click this, you get you are logged out. And then we have another if statement. So if we are logged in, it is if we are logged in, we will show the dashboard, which is this. So we are importing dashboard over here. So again, you are logged in as user profile value dot role. What I want you to note is so as you are setting the value of user profile value, like you're subscribing user profile value to user profile, you're getting all of the properties of user profile in your user profile value. So we are not using role anywhere over here, right? But we are using role over dashboard. And we are not using like is logged in over dashboard. We're just using role. And here we're not using role. So that's how Svelte stores work. And which is basically like, if you are building basic websites, you don't need to know what Svelte stores are, like unless you want to handle reactive code, in which case I would want you to learn Svelte stores. But when you start with Svelte, most of your websites will be just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and this makes writing HTML, CSS, and JavaScript easier. So again, I would really highly recommend you to check out their docs. These are really nice. And if you want like channels to follow, like this person has a YouTube channel as well, I think, and he writes really nice blogs. So yeah, you can check out these resources. If you want more resources, you can contact me. I can guide you through everything else, if you have doubts or anything. So yeah, that's it from me. Adhiraj, if you have anything to add to this, you can, or we can like start taking doubts if one of you have any doubts.
We'll add the resources in the PPT itself, which we'll share like after the session. So yeah, so it's open for doubts and stuff now.
So thank you for sticking around till the end, because I know you all of you have just finished learning React, and a lot of you have probably you are still learning React. So attending another course is nice.
And, like keep the spirits. So any
So
doubts or anything?
yeah, I mean, see, I'll tell. Okay, let's talk about this. So okay, I like for the last few months I have been working with. for the last many months, I have been working with Svelte. So, okay, I'll tell you what the advantages and disadvantages of Svelte are. So, when like in today's class, you saw all the advantages of Svelte, right? It provides a very good developer experience. So, if you look at any of the surveys, hold on, let me see if I can. I'll share my screen. So let's go to state of JS images. So wait, hold on. State of JS libraries EX. Uh, let's just go with JS libraries popularity ranking. Let's look at some graphs. So this is obviously old, right? These are state management. Yeah. So these are JavaScript frameworks ranked by their popularity. I don't know what the blue and purple are, but Svelte ranks higher. This is something old you can even tell from the UI. Like Svelte is really popular. I can't find the graphs, but you will see that Svelte has always been, pretty high ranking when it comes to developer experience. Okay, so what developer experience is like how you feel when you are writing Svelte code, which is kind of important because if you feel shit while writing your code, you won't enjoy it as much, right? So you won't enjoy working with React, for example, because you have to use React router for routing, for example. So for in that case, Svelte ranks pretty high. Uh, but the thing is, Svelte is a new technology, right? I think it started around 2017 and then it picked up around 2019. So it's a new technology. So there is a lot of so as you have JavaScript, you have React libraries, right? Stuff you can use with React. There is a lack of that in the Svelte ecosystem, which is not a bad thing because first of all, you can use all the native JavaScript libraries in Svelte. So Paper.js and everything you have to use. You can use all of that in Svelte without using wrappers like you'd have to in React. But it is still very niche. And also a thing about web development is, see, even now a lot of websites are being run in WordPress and stuff that became irrelevant like 10 years ago, right? So for Svelte to pick up, it would take a lot of time because React has been pretty popular over the in the 2010 to 20 era, right? So yeah, so that's why it's kind of debatable on whether or not Svelte would overtake React. But I feel like the correct answer to this question would be, since you are building a website, it's up to you to use what technology you would use. And if you see like some popular websites that use Svelte, like the website of New York Times that uses Svelte, then the website of what was this? Hugging Face. So if you know Hugging Face, if you're familiar with a little bit of machine learning, you would know. So their website uses Svelte. So it would come down to the people making that site. So yeah. And if you're looking for from an employment point of view, I don't think it would matter because if you can build a really good app in React, you can build a really good app in almost any framework. Or if you can build a really good app in Svelte, you can build a really good app in any framework. It's more about the core concepts. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. So if you have any follow-ups, you can do that as well. Yeah. Yeah, you can use Axios, but why would you use Axios after you have like if after you have Fetch API for fetching, right? Yeah, you can. Yeah, top 10 big companies using Svelte. Yeah, go through that blog. Hmm. See, since you are writing plain JavaScript in Svelte, right? Inside the script tag, you can use plain JavaScript libraries and you can use plain JavaScript code over there in the script tag, which Adhiraj talked with you, right? You write all of your script and styles and HTML inside the same file. So yeah, you can even use, also if you want to like really explore Svelte, there are some libraries that are popping up. So you have like UI libraries like Daisy UI, because which is basically the thing you need when you start, right? Daisy UI, then you have Skeleton UI or something. So yeah, things are popping up, and yeah.
So it seems like no one has any doubts or anything. So we'll formally close the conclude the session for today, like right now, and like tomorrow we'll know more about how to set up your project, like using layouts and pages, like what you saw in that project structure. Tomorrow there will be also a project simple budget tracker which will build tomorrow. So it will be nice if you guys show up tomorrow as well. I hope you guys learned something new today. And if you do not understand anything, like go explore, ask us any doubts. Like we are always there. So yeah, so the session is conclude finished for today. If anyone wants to stick around, there's something called Advent of Svelte going on. So I guess it will be fun to solve the first day problem today. Like if anyone wants to stick around, so if not, you can leave. Thank you, everyone.